Hi everyone, it's Alex Caputo-Pearl, president of United Teachers Los Angeles, and 22-year teacher and parent of LAUSD students. And we're here with our LA School Voice broadcast that we're doing over Facebook Live every week from now until the end of the school year, because we got a lot we need to accomplish between now and the end of the school year. So you're going to be able to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can email us. You can send us questions to this email, laschoolvoice@utla.net. And if you want more info, you can visit us at wearepublicschools.org and look for the LA School Voice blog there. So we are really excited. We've got a big program for you today. And I'm really excited to, first of all, I've got 3 guests with me today. 2 parents who are doing fantastic work on charter schools, and one of our own members who's also doing fantastic work on improving her school, her neighborhood school, and taking on the charter school and privatization issue. So the first thing I want to do today is introduce Elizabeth Untalan, who is a UTLA member and educator at Catskills Elementary.
Hi.
How you doing, Elizabeth?
I'm great. How are you?
Good to see
Ooh,
you.
It's spring break.
Yeah, that's right. Happy spring break to everybody who's on
Happy
spring break.
Everybody.
Thank you for coming in on your spring break. And you're an educator at Catskill Elementary, and the whole city has been watching your struggle against the charter school co-location. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on there in that struggle?
So, Alex, we caught wind of the charter school co-location, and we caught wind that it would happen at Catskill. And Catskill is a elementary school in Carson, California, which is one of the harbor cities. We caught wind of it actually right before you were going to declare our UTLA strike against LAUSD. So we got mobilized very quickly through social media. We used the apps to communicate with parents and teachers and community members, and soon many people from the harbor area just jumped right on board with us. Co-location actually means it's derived from that Prop 39 law that was passed back in 2000. It basically says that because a public school has no teacher in there in a carrying roster, that empty space becomes open for charter school co-location. And unfortunately, we do have spaces, but they're not empty. We're using them for computer labs. We have 3 computer labs. We have a counseling room. We have a parent volunteer center. We have a wonderful, beautiful art studio in our classroom.
In other words, you have some of the things that we would want all schools to have.
All
Parent
schools.
centers, computer labs, art studios, and yet they're considered by the law underutilized space.
They're underutilized space, exactly. But these are the very resources that we use to pour into children in our neighborhood. And our neighborhood is an underserved population. Title I, 89.5% socioeconomically, in low poverty area, 522 students. So having all these resources actually brings up test scores, actually pours into the students, and they get a really well-rounded education when they go to Catskill. So it's a hidden gem actually in the city of Carson.
And you all have been pushing back against a charter school that wants to co-locate there, so much so that you have used your organization to the organization of parents, students, community activists, other unions, educators, to actually go to city council meetings, to actually go to meetings of that charter school board and actually protest them coming onto the Catskill campus, right?
Yes, in fact, our learning community at Catskill, we've been together, and Catskill is an established school for 71 years. The city of Carson has been around for about 51 years, so Catskill is actually older than the city of Carson, and that's an amazing thing. So yes, when we show up as a family, and we bring in more family to fight charter co-location, and we've been very proactive about making sure we know the board meetings that are public. We have people who are in the know, who go on social media, who read the newspapers. We have just everybody went to their talents at Catskill. So everybody went to their talents, and we have shirts made, we had a website made, we have a Twitter handle, we have all these things to just make sure everything gets blasted out there.
And I think, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of people have been following your struggle on social media. And one of the things that happened is that a charter school, I mean, one of the ironies of Los Angeles is that there are already enough schools in Los Angeles. Research after research after research document has shown that there's enough schools, and yet the charter industry keeps on trying to create new schools. And so Ganas, which is a charter that is attempting to locate somewhere in your area, they've been a particular adversary in this, right? And I believe, if you could tell people a little bit about what just happened last week, where you actually disrupted a meeting.
Yes.
And demanded public accountability, right?
Yes. So the important thing is we know the Brown Act laws. You have to educate yourself on what you can do legally and what they cannot do legally, and that is very important. And so that actually equips us with a stronger punch. So the charter school, Ganas Academy Charter School, actually, when they run their board meetings, they basically do it in such a way where they just do the very bare minimum to try to win over the community. And Harbor City schools and teachers and parents, we don't like that. We don't like that game. So we basically go in there, we're armed, we're ready, and basically, if needed be, that we see something that they're not doing in a correct form, we're very ready to call them out on it.
Yeah. That's great. And so just one other question, or two other questions here. Could you, Elizabeth, tell us a little bit about how the strike and your unity in the strike with your staff, how did that prepare you all for the work that's happening right now?
I love that question because at Catskill Avenue Elementary School, we have veteran teachers. So if you look at the range of teaching experience, we go from the youngest being 17 years of teaching experience, all the way to 30 plus. So many of those veteran teachers, we're not just talking one, there's a couple who really held the reins and really provided structure for our passion, and provided structure for our communication, and provided structure to just get that energy out and funnel it in a positive way, which is this strike. So a lot of them were participated in the 1989 strike. They can completely recall the feelings, the situation, and also the way that brought everybody together in such a close way that now we're actually texting each other, 10 o'clock, even 5 o'clock in the morning. We're still checking each other's pulses and asking each other, how are you doing? And again, it's become like a family kind of environment for that to happen in that adversity.
So it sounds like the strike not only won some very concrete things. For example, we won some things around co-location, but it also built your communication structure. It built your spirit of working together and prepared you for this fight against co-location, which is great.
And we were so excited when we won the strike and we got many of the things that we asked for. We were so excited. We voted yes. We're ready to support UTLA in whatever it is. Yep. So now we're here at this point.
And I'll just say this. Remember, Catskill Elementary is, like many of our schools in Los Angeles, as Elizabeth said, it's in a high poverty area. It's a school that has a dedicated faculty that's been institutions in the community, where the answer is not undermining the neighborhood school like Catskill. The answer is investing in the neighborhood school like Catskill, and that's exactly the fight that Elizabeth and her colleagues and parents and students are leading. One last question, because I'm going to get to this later in the broadcast. Measure EE, which is coming up and which is a huge opportunity to invest in our schools. What do you think? Why do you support Measure EE, and what kind of investments into Catskill could you see that $500 million going towards?
Well, $500 million is a lot of money, and I would be very excited to see how that pours into the students. by adding more support staff, by making our environment, our school environment, very, very clean and ready to welcome children, ready to just basically something. I think cleanliness is a basic need. I think mental health is a basic right that everybody needs. Support counselors there. We have a fabulous school psychologist. We have a social worker that we heavily invest in. We already know that we allot so much of our school budget to them, but it would be so much better if there's a Measure E that's already earmarked for that, so that we can take our school budget and use it for other things to diversify our learning.
So, and so I'm going to talk about that a little bit later in the broadcast here, but I want to thank Elizabeth Untalan, who's a great leader at Catskill Elementary, and all the faculty there. I met many of you all at the community meeting that you did a couple of months ago, and we're all in support of you, and you're helping lead the way in showing other schools how to organize themselves and other communities how to organize themselves around the charter co-location question.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
Thank you. This is the least that I could do.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
So that's Elizabeth Untalan, who's doing fantastic work, and a shout out to the entire Catskill faculty who I met the other night, and parents and students and others. We've got a couple of other very special guests, parents, who are helping to lead the struggle, but I'm going to run through a couple of other issues first, okay? First of all, a couple of updates just from the news. One is, you may have seen the LA Times article last week about how LAUSD has stated that they do not plan on doing a major restructuring, right? This was a big issue around Reimagine, around this portfolio district plan, and the announcement last week was that no major restructuring is planned on the part of LAUSD. What this means, frankly, is that that's another thing that comes out of our strike. It's another victory for our strike, that whoever the people were who were promoting the idea of a portfolio plan, whether it was someone out of the charter industry world or someone out of the so-called school reform world that has nationally been pouring money into LA charter industry networks, whoever it was who was promoting that portfolio privatization plan, they have been backed off. And that is a major victory of our strike. But I want you all to know, parents, students, and educators out there, we are tracking very closely and talking with the district on a weekly basis about any sort of restructuring that they're doing, and any restructuring that does happen, however minor it might be, we need it to benefit students. And so we're going to be tracking that. Second big thing in the news, you know that the Sacramento educators went on a one-day unfair practices strike last Thursday. And again, it's part of this strike wave that we're seeing in California, LA, Oakland, Sacramento City. In Sacramento's case, it was them winning a contract over a year ago, but having the district not implement it correctly. And so they filed unfair practice charges, and they went on a strike to essentially protest that the district was not implementing their victories around class size reduction, their victories around librarians, counselors, etc. So that is a very, very important watershed moment for the state of California, to have a teachers union not just go on strike, but to specifically go on strike to hold the district accountable to implement the contract that was won. Okay? So we're with those Sacramento educators, and we're going to keep our eye on that and keep our support flowing there. Okay? Real quick update for members. You all know this. We've put it out on a lot of different media, but your regular paycheck will be coming in May with all of the 6% pay increase included in it, and all of the retroactive payment from 2017-18 and 2018-19 will be included in May as well. So thank you for your patience on that. We wanted to make sure it was done right, and we've been working with the district on that. So just expect that in May. That's a special message for our members. Two other items before I bring our other special guests on. Jackie Goldberg. You all know that our candidate, the community's candidate, parents' candidate, educators' candidate, UTLA's candidate for Board District 5 is Jackie Goldberg. And there's so many things to say about Jackie. I want to focus narrowly on one thing for today, and that is that Jackie Goldberg is a teacher. She started out as a teacher, and most recently, she was working at UCLA training teachers. So this is someone who knows the classroom, who is dedicated to the classroom, so much so that she not only was a teacher herself, but is also training the new generation of teachers. And she also, when she was in the state assembly, actually fought for academic freedom, for teachers to be able to teach instead of just follow a script or a curriculum out of a box or prep students for a test, actually teach about real ideas out in the world, critical thinking, what our students really need. So Jackie Goldberg, remember, go to the website, the UTLA website, and make sure that you are signing up for UTLA events in support of Jackie Goldberg. We've got to do that for Board District 5. That election is May 14th. So emblazon that in your mind, May 14th, and we've got to get as many people out there as possible. This can be another big impact of our strike, is changing the school board composition by having Jackie Goldberg on there. Okay, now I want to hit on Measure EE very quickly, and then I want to bring Eloisa and Julie on board, who are our next guests. Measure EE, I cannot emphasize enough how important this is. We have not had a local funding measure like this to actually bring this amount of money, $500 million, into LA public schools. We have not had this for decades, okay? Proposition 30 and Prop 55 were state-level initiatives that just kept our head above water. This is a local initiative that will actually advance the ball for us around reducing class size, not just keeping class size the same. Getting more counselors, not just keeping the same amount of counselors. I cannot emphasize how important Measure EE is, and this came out of our strike. Make no mistake about it. You took a narrative that too often was attacking teachers and attacking public schools and saying that more money doesn't matter, it doesn't solve the problem. You took that narrative and you shifted it into a narrative with our strike of, oh my gosh, look what our schools don't have. We need more money to make sure that every school has what they need. You shifted that narrative. Measure EE lets us, in the same year as our strike, June 4th, just a few months after our January strike, it lets us bring $500 million more into the public system. So I want to just remind all of our members out there that there is a petition that we're having all of our members sign on to. And remember, our strike is talked about across the United States in the labor movement as one of the most organized strikes they've seen in decades. That's because we organized for it. People signed petitions. They signed up saying, yes, I'm committed to strike. We've got to do the same thing with Measure EE. We cannot let this opportunity die on the vine and still have the same amount of money in LAUSD next year that we did this year. We can't let that happen. So very quickly, the 3 boxes here. You're going to sign here. The first box says, yes, I'm registered to vote. Even if you are not within the LAUSD boundaries, even if you cannot vote on Measure EE, you have to make sure you're registered to vote. Because there's another initiative in 2020 that we're going to be behind for more school funding. When we said we want 20 by 20, $20,000 per student by the year 2020, we were dead serious. Measure EE is part of that, and then Schools and Communities First in 2020 is part of that. But the key is you have to be registered to vote. So that's box 1. I am registered to vote. And if you're not, go to lavote.net. Okay? Second box, I plan to vote for Measure EE. Every single one of our members, and about 2/3 of our members, do live within LAUSD. Every single one of our members that live within LAUSD needs to check that second box. I will vote for Measure EE. If we come out and vote, we will win this election. We're big enough that that is the truth. So we need you checked off on the second box. If you don't live within LAUSD, then just write a little note so that your colleagues can see it. Right underneath it, I support it, but I don't live within the LAUSD boundary, okay? And then that's where the third box comes in, which is I will volunteer to help on Measure EE. Everyone, but especially those of you that live outside LAUSD boundaries, this is your way to contribute. If you can't contribute with your vote, contribute by text banking, phone banking, precinct walking, all of the stuff we're going to have over the next 1.5 months as we drive towards Measure EE, okay? So that's that third column, and everybody, whether you live inside LAUSD or outside LAUSD, should check that third box. So that's how this works. Systems work, structures work, petitions work, signed commitments work. We've proven that. We need to do it again with EE. Ask your chapter chair, where this is, and make sure you sign on to it, okay? So we're going to close out with something very special. We've got two great parent leaders with us, Julie Regalado and Eloisa Galindo. Julie and Eloisa, if you would come on. Hi,
Hello.
Julie.
Hello.
Hi, Eloisa.
Thank you for having
Hola.
us.
And this is how we're going to round out the program today. Okay, we're just making sure we're situated here. This is how we're going to round out the program today with these two fierce leaders in the movement against privatization. The other item that we have folks working on right now is trying to pass legislation up in Sacramento that will actually regulate charter growth, okay? So Senate Bill 756 calls for a charter school moratorium. Assembly Bill 1505 calls for more things within the charter authorization process, like being able to look at the fiscal impact on a district. Assembly Bill 1506 calls for a cap on charter growth. And Assembly Bill 1507 says that charters need to operate within the district that they are approved in. These are all essential things, and Julie and Eloisa were in Sacramento last week where we are going to press legislators on all of these things up through May, through June, into July to make sure that we have some real charter school accountability. Julie, could you tell us a little bit about what you were doing up in Sacramento, what it was like up there to be talking about these?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for having us. We were 15 parents and teachers, parents and students that went from Eastside Padres contra Privatización.
Say the organization's name again. Very important they hear that.
Eastside Padres contra la Privatización. And we took a trip to Sacramento and we spoke to nine people up there. It was Patrick O'Neill, Kevin Kiley, Ash Carla, Christine Smith, Autumn Burke, Ben Allen, and Wendy Carrillo. She represents the East Los Angeles. And James Nelson, Cody Burt Norris. And we spoke to them and we told them our stories of how co-location is, how the importance of having a moratorium in East LA. For the most part, we got really good positive feedback from the ones that were in the education committee. And for those of the ones that didn't know about the measures, we're very interested in knowing more, and we're really listening really carefully as students and parents talked about the issues of co-location and the chaos that goes on, which they didn't know about, and really took notes, listened, and very powerful trip to Sacramento.
And I can just say, people out there know this. All of the parents who are watching, the educators who are watching, the union members who are watching, community activists, students, you know how powerful parent voices are in particular, right? There's a very, parents often have the most powerful voices, or can have the most powerful voices, and these women have been organizing for years, not just in the lead up to our strike as key allies, but also around this issue. And by the way, each of those assembly bills passed out of the Assembly Education Committee last week. So you were successful in getting them past that first hurdle. So Eloisa, la lucha más grande sobre la privatización, ¿puede hablar sobre esta lucha más grande?
La lucha más grande que yo he visto contra la privatización es que la gente se está informando de lo que está pasando, que no estamos peleando con los padres, con los niños de escuela charter, estamos peleando contra los billonarios, la industria charter, que ven a nuestros hijos como un negocio, y como padres de Isai, nosotros vimos la necesidad de ir a hablar a Sacramento con legisladores para que sepan lo que está viviendo, o lo que están viviendo en las coubicaciones. Muchos legisladores sabían de estos proyectos que están por pasar, bueno, que ya pasaron. Muchos no sabían, pero con nuestra plática, con decirles cómo se está viviendo una coubicación dentro de una escuela, dentro de las comunidades que están enfrentando a las comunidades, ellos dijeron que se quedaron sorprendidos porque no sabían qué estaba pasando en esas coubicaciones. Después nosotros supimos en Sacramento que la huelga que UTLA hizo impactó demasiado, porque dentro de Sacramento, del Capitolio, se sabe del moratorio, se sabe de la lucha de UTLA por la educación de nuestros hijos, por el respeto y el derecho que se merecen los maestros. Y para mí, que antes, después y ahora debemos seguir luchando contra esa industria charter para que nosotros tengamos escuelas dignas y el dinero que debe estar dentro de los estudiantes y con los estudiantes. Para mí la lucha más grande que ha sido es parar una mega KIP en la Cuarta y la Soto. Ya no se va a hacer, fue una lucha, pero se logró, y quiero decirles a todos que seguimos en la lucha, que vamos a seguir luchando más, y que antes y después de la huelga, aquí estamos en la lucha.
Sí, and one of the things, just real quickly in English, that Eloisa was just talking about was not only that legislators in Sacramento had felt the impact of the UTLA strike and had felt the impact of our calls for a moratorium and a cap on the charter industry. Not only had they felt that, but parents in the East Side Parents Against Privatization, they just won a major battle by stopping what's called a mega KIP, a huge charter school, from coming into East Los Angeles. And this was done through grassroots organizing, through the power of people. Entonces, tiene experiencia con líderes en el mundo político aquí en la ciudad, como José Huizar, y también en el nivel del Estado, como legisladores en Sacramento.
Sí, hubo una secretaria de un legislador que se quedó muy sorprendido cuando le contamos de las coubicaciones, cómo vivían los estudiantes y la comunidad. Dijo, ¿y se puede hacer eso? Le dijimos, no se puede hacer eso, pero lo hacen. Y ella dijo que iba a dar ese mensaje tan importante a su legislador para que tomara muy en cuenta lo que estaba pasando con las coubicaciones.
Sí. Entonces, muchas gracias, and we're with you in the struggle. Muchas gracias, y la lucha sigue.
Sí, la lucha
Thank you
sigue.
for having us.
Gracias.
Okay.
La lucha sigue. Y a
Okay.
votar por Jackie Goldberg.
Okay, so I'm going to round it out here. We've had great guests here, Elizabeth, Eloisa, and Julie. And I don't know whether you saw Eloisa there as she was walking off the camera. She was saying, let's get Jackie Goldberg elected. So we've got to keep these dates in mind, everybody. May 14th is the Board District 5 election for Jackie Goldberg, who's going to come in as a fighter for more school funding, to direct the Measure EE money the way it needs to be directed, and against privatization. And then that other date is June 4th, Measure EE. I can't emphasize this enough. We have not, our strike brought about this opportunity to make a breakthrough on school funding. all of us have seen the lack of funding in our classrooms. Our strike gives us this breakthrough opportunity, and we're either going to grab that opportunity by organizing for June 4th and passing Measure EE, or we're going to let that opportunity die on the vine. And I think we all know what we need to do, which is get behind it and pass Measure EE. So again, thank you for being here. We've had great guests, and again, you can always find LA School Voice on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can always send emails if you've got questions to laschoolvoice@utla.net. And for more information, visit us at wearepublicschools.org. And we're building a movement, folks. That's why we got great people like Elizabeth, Eloisa, and Julie with us, because all together, we've got the power to transform our schools in Los Angeles. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next Monday for the next Facebook Live. Take care.